I arrived here in Luxor by train from Aswan in the south, gliding along the green belt beside the Nile. The river widens near here and becomes more dramatic with barren mountains on the west side of it. No coincidence, I'm sure, as to why this was Egypt's capital for so much of its time as an ancient power. As such, it was a world city at different times, attracting Babylonians, Hittites, Canaanites, Phoenicians, and Minoans from the island of Crete. I'm staying on the east side of the river at the Nefertiti Hotel, whose rooftop terrace looks down on the fabulous Luxor Temple, one of the two great temple complexes here, the other being the even older and grander Karnak Temple. This is one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities on Earth, dating back 3,200 years before Christ. And these days it's one of the most touristic cities in Egypt, owing its existence in large part to visitors who come here from all over the world to glimpse some of the better known shrines of ancient Egypt. There's more security here in Karnak than at many airports. I passed through a security check at the outer gate. I've now entered the inner gate, and I suppose is the visitor center. At least it's the place where ticket holders enter, and there's more security. Or not, I've just gone through the third security checkpoint before entering the temple grounds, each with x-ray machines. I didn't show up when the gates opened, but the masses of people here are just enormous. Other than the pyramids of Giza, this temple complex is the most visited archaeological site in Egypt. It dates from about 2000 BC, or nearly 6 centuries before the first stones were laid at Luxor Temple. And what remains here was contributed to by as many as 30 pharaohs down to the end of the Ptolemaic period in Egypt in 30 BC, with the death of Queen Cleopatra VII and the takeover by the Romans. Because Karnak was so integral to ancient Egypt for so long, the study of this place is the study of the vast sweep of Egyptian history and religion for a span of at least 2,000 years. I've entered the single most identifiable part of this sprawling complex, the Great Hypostyle Hall, which covers some 54,000 square feet. The roof is long gone, but what's left are 134 columns in 16 rows that supported it, with the middle 2 rows of columns taller than the others to give the roof a slope. You notice the iconography on the columns is suggestive of papyrus. The reason for that centers around the mythology of the god Atun, the primordial creator god from whom all others, including Ra, descended. Atun was believed to have emerged from the primordial abyss of a papyrus swamp, and according to Egyptian belief was the creator god and progenitor of all other gods in ancient Egypt. The fact that this hall in Atun's honor wasn't built until the 13th century BC tells you something about the staying power of Egyptian mythology, even as other gods were added or given elevated importance down through the centuries. We know more than ever about Karnak these days, but for centuries, the ancient city of Thebes, with its 2 great temples, was a mystery, and a very strange one at that. In about 323 CE, Roman Emperor Constantine the Great recognized Christianity and ordered the closing of pagan temples throughout the Roman Empire. By then, Karnak was mostly abandoned, and Christian churches, not to mention commercial and residential areas, sprang up among the ruins. And although early historians like Herodotus and Strabo wrote of Thebes and described how to reach it nearly 2,000 years ago, something unusual happened. By the 15th and 16th centuries CE, some of the more prominent chroniclers of the day seemed to have no clue as to where Thebes was. In fact, for a long time, it was erroneously believed that Thebes was 300 plus miles north of here, near the ruins of Memphis. Scholarly travelers of the era would go to the south of Egypt and skip over this area entirely. Of course, if there's any explanation for the centuries-old ignorance of where Thebes was located, despite the ancient clues provided by the earlier writers, it's because Thebes was, for the most part, buried under dirt, sand, and rubbish of subsequent generations, and was barely sticking up out of the ground. You know how when you were in high school, or maybe even earlier, you were always taught that the Egyptians worshipped the sun. And even as I mentioned that, some of you are probably thinking, yeah, that's Ra, which is not wrong, but let's just say it's a bit too elementary to be very meaningful. I mentioned earlier Amun as the chief deity of ancient Egypt's triad of principal gods. Over time, he evolved to become Amun-Re, or Amun-Ra. And that ultimate transition into the sun god originated right here in this temple in the 16th century BC. Earlier, he was merely Amun, the patron god of Thebes. But when Pharaoh Ahmose I extended his power over both Upper and Lower Egypt in about 1570 BC, and since Thebes was the seat of that power, Amun got an upgrade. He was no longer considered merely the god of Thebes. His identity was melded with that of the sun god Ra, and he became the god of all of Egypt, hence the name change to Amun-Ra. You can be absolutely traffic jammed in the main part of the temple complex, with hordes of people, most of them attached to tour guides, and yet duck out one of the arched entryways leading into the central site at various points, and you're at places where I am now, all alone, almost completely alone. This is a bigger place than I initially thought. It sprawls through several blocks. Almost all of the entrepreneurs here, everybody you see working here is male. Oh, but the only females that you see here are either tourists or local Egyptian women who just happen to be walking through the souk. Maybe they're customers. It's also true, by the way, of the wait staff in my hotel, as well as the housekeeping staff. All male.
Columbus cap goes for $2 cap. $2. Look, please, cap. Just look. Have Egyptian cap for $1 cap. $1 cap. $1 American dollar.
I'm not shopping today.
I know. Just you make a nice film.
But
for the people.
That's all I'm doing. But thank you very much.
You're welcome. My name Amos. Amos from
like the king.
Yeah, from Luxor. Excuse me, from Luxor, Egypt, Egyptian market, old market. There's a big suit.
Yeah.
I've got Galapia.
Amos, yes. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
you. You have a very kingly name.
The Paris name. Paris. Take a photo of Paris.
Now he wants to take me to his other shop, which sells papyrus. And let's just see what he says.
That's papyrus, Ramses, Tutankhamun, Nefertari, Hathor, Welcome, market.
It's very nice.
Thank you.
It's very pretty. If I were in the market to buy papyrus, I would certainly consider it.
I want to see a t-shirt in my shop.
No, don't need a t-shirt.
No, I have a lovely scarf for that. You already sent scarf for you.
Amos, could I ask you a question?
Yes.
Okay. As a market person, as an entrepreneur, as a salesperson, do you ever accept no for an answer? It's an honest question. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, what did you say again?
Oh,
no.
I said, I'm amazed at the ability of the people who work in the market here to not be able to accept the fact that a person doesn't want to buy something and yet you keep selling.
No, it's okay. No hassle. You see, no, it's okay.
Great. Well, just wanted to clear that up and get an understanding. Thank you. Have a great day.
And let's see the shop itself. Scallop. American prison. American prison. Little prison. American prison. You to my name, my son.
After all that, he's going to get his card to bring back to me. Did you say you were going to give me your card?
Yes.
Came back, tried to sell me a shirt, and now supposedly he'll come back with his card. Thank you, Amos.
You want to look? Is all the Egyptian market? Yeah, all the Egyptian market.
No. I'm just walking around, enjoying the scene.
That's you say promise. You need something? T-shirt for me, scarf for me. You say promise. Don't break promise. Maybe tomorrow?
Yeah. Maybe tomorrow? No, I'll leave early in the morning. But thank you so much. I may see you again.
Maybe you look for Egyptian also spices. Also you have the spices mix. Spices shop here.
No, Amos, I'm not shopping. But thank you. Thank you. Have a great day.
Have a good day.
Okay, bye-bye. I showed you that for a reason.
Welcome.
And that is just to illustrate in a very small way the unceasing tenacity of Egyptians who not only work in the souk, but who work in the street and who continuously hustle for a living. Apparent inability to accept no for an answer. It's quite amazing, and it never stops.
What's up?
I'm on the rooftop of my hotel, the Nefertiti Hotel, waiting really for sunset. As I may have mentioned, this is the east side of Luxor, where the vast majority of people who visit here stay. And as you can tell, it offers a wonderful view of the Nile and beyond. It looks directly down on the Avenue of the Sphinxes and slightly to the south, the Luxor Temple, which is not only a site to visit in daytime, but some people actually prefer to visit at night when the entire complex is beautifully lit and mysterious. Fortunately, there's a pretty good restaurant up here, and I've been trying different Egyptian specialties each night besides having breakfast here. And I've fallen in love with the dessert here, the Umma Ali, which is a sweet combination of pastry flakes, nuts, and sultanas, the small raisins, cooked in milk with cream and chocolate sauce. Also hot, just outstanding. Each of the temples of ancient Thebes are unique in important ways, including Luxor Temple, where I just arrived. This temple complex began to be built in about 1400 BC, with additions down to the Ptolemaic period of Grecian influence between about 300 BC and 30 BC, when 6 centuries of Roman influence began. Unlike many other Egyptian temples, this one wasn't built to honor a cult god or to deify a specific pharaoh, but rather it was built and maintained as a place to honor the institution of Egyptian kingship. That's why down through time you have Ramses II, Amenhotep III, Tutankhamun, and others contributing portions of this temple without modifying it to make it an homage to themselves. Archaeologists believe that this temple may have been the place where pharaohs were crowned during Thebes' long run as Egypt's capital, although there may have been one notable exception. Alexander the Great claimed to have been crowned here after subduing Egypt, but some suggest he may have meant that in a symbolic way because there's no evidence of his ever traveling south of Memphis as Egypt's kingly ruler. The sandstone used to build these monumental structures is Nubian sandstone, hauled down the Nile from the far south, and so it has the same soft tone as the temples you see in that region, including those at Philae and Abu Simbel I showed you in previous videos. They still haul the sandstone down the Nile, by the way, for repairs and restoration. As is often the case, the stories about how great edifices such as these are discovered and excavated are as interesting as the history of the place itself. Excavation started here in 1864 and was sporadic until 1960. The problem here, and what kept this temple buried and forgotten for centuries, is that by the Middle Ages, the town had settled on top of and immediately around the temple itself. Over the centuries, a lot of rubbish had built up. In fact, there was a mound that covered about 3/4 of the height of what you see here that had to be removed in order to start excavation. Not only that, but in the late 1800s, when the first real excavation began, there were houses, stores, huts, barracks, and even an ancient mosque that had been built on the site. All of it had to be acquired and cleared out, except of course for the mosque, which is still very much here, smack in the middle of everything. During much of its existence in ancient times, the most important occasion of the year at this temple, as in all of Thebes, was the Opet festival. It was an occasion when a cult statue of Amun, the chief of the triad of gods worshipped by the Egyptians, was paraded down the Nile to this temple from Karnak, a little less than 2 miles away. Amun was brought here to engage sexually with his goddess consort Mut in what the Thebans believed would help increase the fertility of the pharaoh. The huge obelisk you see behind me at the north entrance of this place is more than 3,000 years old. It's one of 2 that used to stand here, courtesy of Ramses II, who ordered them up in about 1244 BC. The other one was carted off to Paris in the early 1800s and stands in the Place des Concordes, Paris's largest public square. The French had coveted this obelisk ever since an officer in Napoleon's 1799 Egypt campaign suggested they take it. The French scholar who interpreted the Rosetta Stone seconded the idea. It ended up being gifted to France by the Ottoman-appointed Pasha of Egypt, Muhammad Ali, in 1830. In exchange, the French gave the Ottomans a mechanical clock installed at the citadel of Saladin in Cairo. And guess what? The clock never really worked. Well, there was supposed to have been another video from here at the Valley of the Kings on the other side of the Nile. but I fell ill for a couple of days, so that one will have to wait. As I wrap up my journey in Egypt, I want to thank you for subscribing to the channel and placing likes on the videos. If you want further observations about the places I travel, follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Meanwhile, I hope to see you soon for another series of videos from a new destination, Eastern Europe. Until then, ciao and peace.
hope you are enjoying.